Hi, I'm Michael Yardney, and while nothing in life is guaranteed, there are many rational, logical and understandable reasons to believe the value of well-located real estate is going to continue to appreciate over time. Many factors like interest rates, employment levels, supply and demand, market confidence, those sort of things affect a country's property prices in the short term. But in the long term, prices are driven by two main factors. Firstly, household formation, which is a function of our population growth, and secondly, the wealth of the nation. So today I'd like to examine both of those factors. First of all, let's look what's happening to Australia's population. Last year, our population increased by close to 400,000 people. It means we're growing faster than most developed nations. This is in part due to our natural population growth. We're making more babies faster than people are dying, but mainly due to overseas immigration. But to put things in perspective, it's a bit like adding an extra Canberra to Australia each year. We're growing at around 1.8% per annum compared to the United States that's growing at 0.8%, UK 0.6%, Canada at 1% and China at 0.6%. Our population growth means that we're likely to increase our population by about 10% in the next 5 years. Around 2.3 million people are going to have to find somewhere to live. Now that's an awful lot of houses or apartments. But the real game changer is that the Australian Bureau of Statistics are now they're suggesting our population is likely to double in the next 62 years. This anticipated population increase, and that's actually tripled how fast they think we're going to grow, is going to have a profound effect on our property markets. Remember, it took us over 2 centuries to reach 23 million people, and now this is projected to double again in around 60 years. Of course, these numbers aren't set in stone, as no one really knows what's going to happen to government policy on the immigration numbers. However, it does seem inevitable that our population is going to expand substantially. And this is going to have a significant impact on our property markets. It means we're going to need to build around 8 million additional homes, plus all the shopping centres, schools, hospitals and infrastructure to support 23 million more people, while at the same time somehow managing to support 17 million more cars on our roads. Now it gets interesting when you look at the states. The proportion of population residing in New South Wales, South Australia, Tasmania and Northern Territory is projected to fall. At the same time, the proportion is projected to remain static in Victoria and rise across Queensland, Western Australia and the ACT. Where are all these people going to live? Of course, the big question is, where are we going to fit them in? Well, it seems like a significant majority are going to want to live in our capital cities. Currently, the proportion of Australians living in our capital cities is about 2/3. It's already high compared to world standards, and this is projected to increase to almost 3/4 of our population by 2061. These long-term projections bring up some interesting points. Firstly, in the next 50 years, almost 3 out of 4 Australians are going to live in a capital city. Currently, 57% live in one of our 4 big capital cities: Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane and Perth, of course. But if the Bureau of Statistics projections pan out, by 2061, 66% will live in those same 4 big capital cities. Perhaps now you can see why I've been recommending investing in these locations in my regular property updates. It's also interesting to see which is going to be our biggest capital city. It's thought that by 2061, Melbourne will have a larger population than Sydney, and Perth will be home to more people than Brisbane will be. Of course, a lot can happen between now and then. It may not even take that long, because the Bureau of Statistics forecasts Perth is going to overtake Brisbane much sooner. Maybe it'll be the 3rd largest population centre in Australia by 2028, and Melbourne could overtake Sydney by maybe 2053. Boy, is it going to be interesting to see what our big cities are going to look like in the future. But no doubt this huge increase in population will lead to significant challenges, including where are all the people going to live? How are we going to house them? What infrastructure changes are we going to need? What's all this, of course, going to mean to property values and affordability in the big cities? While the edges of our metropolises are clearly going to sprawl out, there's little doubt that the centres of our cities are going to become denser, with more of us living in apartments and townhouses. Well, what does this mean for you and me as property investors? I guess with more of us wanting to live in the four big cities, our old friend, the supply and demand ratio, is going to keep pushing up property values, or at least that of well-located inner and middle ring suburban properties. Sure, these properties are going to be unaffordable for some, and unfortunately they're probably going to remain tenants all their lives, but others will be able to afford these higher priced properties, as I don't think anyone can argue that as a nation in general we're going to become wealthier over the next few decades. Of course, Australia is positioned in a great position in the centre of the growth centre of Asia, which represents 50% of the world's population. So if our politicians play their cards right, we stand poised to capitalise on an economic transformation unparalleled in our nation's history. So if, like me, you're confident Australia has got a prosperous future and you agree that our population is going to increase and that most of us are going to want to live in the same parts of our lucky country, you can understand why I see a strong, long-term future for our capital city property markets. If you want to take advantage of these opportunities that lie ahead in property, why not come and have a chat with the independent property strategists at Metropole, with offices in Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane and affiliates in Perth, but no properties to sale. We can help beginning investors get going, or experienced investors analyse their portfolios, see how it's going. So remember, the multi-award winning team at Metropole is there to help you. Just contact us at metropole.com.au. We'd love to catch up with you.